Welcome to Kearsarge Gore Farm. I'm Sarah.
My name is Sam Bauer, and I'll give you a brief history of Kearsarge Gore Farm. My parents bought the property in 1981, and they started off as loggers. Originally, this was one large woodlot. They cleared land and started pasture raising sheep. Eventually they turned the pasture into vegetable gardens, and today we grow 5 acres of certified organic vegetables. We raise 20 to 30 sheep, 16 to 18 Devon cows. We raise a couple pigs every year. We cut cordwood in the winter, and we make maple syrup in the spring.
Our vegetables are all certified organic. We grow basically everything in little quantities. The gamut from Market Garden, we don't grow any corn. That's the one thing that people always want that we don't grow. Salad mix is a big one for us. Garlic is big for us. We grow about 15 to 16,000 heads of garlic every year, which we just keep going up and up because we love garlic. It's awesome. Potatoes, winter squash, and then just an assortment of leafy greens. We always try to experiment with new crops too. We'll do, because we have some smaller beds, we'll try to do things like tomatillos, ground cherries, kind of just like play around with things that people ask us to grow. Yeah.
We do raise vegetables in high tunnels as well. We use the high tunnels for season extension. And we often find ourselves, because we farm year-round, we often find ourselves transitioning from one season into the other, from maple syrup in the spring, and then we're in the sap house boiling and making maple syrup, while at the same time getting into our high tunnels and starting early season salad mixes. Then in the fall, we find ourselves selling the storage crops and moving into cutting and selling cordwood and timber off the woodlot. We raise the animals year-round.
Oh, yeah.
We raise pasture-raised Devon cattle and Dorset sheep. We also raise 6 to 8 pigs a year and try to raise a household supply of chickens as well.
The animals kind of have a symbiotic relationship with the farm, with the vegetables too. We use a lot of their manure and bedding for compost. So we compile all of that and turn it and process it and spread it out on the garden. So there's kind of an interplay between like the winter bedding and the summer vegetables, which is helpful.
We do try and find out where we can be efficient in farming in so many different areas and raising so many different and being involved in so many different aspects of New Hampshire farming. And we try to use the animals to graze and maintain the pastures and the grass around the vegetable gardens. We use the manure from the animals to put back out onto the fields. We are practicing silvopasture, which is the practice of grazing cows and sheep in and among the forest and from the undergrowth of the forest floor.
We sell our vegetables. We try to sell our vegetables really locally. I'd say, I think like 90% of our vegetables are sold within a 30-mile radius. I think actually maybe 100% of our vegetables are sold within a 30-mile radius. And I'd say probably 90% of the maple syrup is sold within that radius, and 100% of the meat too is sold like really, really locally. We do 2 farmers markets, the Warner Farmers Market and the Concord Farmers Market. We are one of the 5 members of Local Harvest CSA, a local certified multi-farm cooperative CSA. Sweet Beet Market, the Concord Co-op.
We sell some of our maple products down on the seacoast.
Yeah.
We sell at Kittery Trading Post and what used to be the Durham Marketplace. And
we sell to the Portsmouth Health Food and also Rising Tide Health Food. So that's like the furthest aflung that anything on this property goes, is the seacoast, and it's the maple syrup out there. But yeah, all the vegetables, we like to stay local, and you know, someday if our road wasn't as bad, we'd have all the vegetables just stay on the farm and people would come up and get them, but until we fix the road.
When my parents were first selling vegetables, most of the business was out of Concord through the Concord Food Co-op or the local Harvest CSA. Over the last 5 or 8 years, Sarah and I have been involved in the starting of Warner Public Market and have been selling vegetables to the Sweet Beet Market in Bradford as well. And we're excited that we seem to be finding that we can move more and more of our produce like kind of hyper locally, right within town, within 5 to 15 miles from the farm.
We've been working on our growing practices, so not only we're certified organic here, all of our vegetables are certified organic, we've also been implementing a lot of no-till or low-till gardens, especially the gardens right behind us. We've seen like a huge improvement in soil quality from not running a tractor on them, and that actually really helps because we can get on the gardens a lot earlier in the spring, from like March, April, whenever, not March. We can get on the gardens in May, right after the snow thaws. We're in the grounds planting. We have a broad fork. We do a lot of bed prep. And then right now in August, it's been a total drought, and the gardens that we use no-till or low-till on are retaining a ton more moisture. We're having to water them less, and they're producing the same quality goods as other gardens. It's been kind of like a fun experiment to do like the organic plus, or kind of think about how else we can help improve the land, and how for those 4 seasons what we're doing now is going to impact you know, the choices that we're going to make next year or in a couple months. Yeah.
We do a lot of crop rotation, cover cropping, and the no-till practices, and we've definitely seen over the last 4 years or so a dramatic improvement in soil health and vegetable quality, for sure. Let's see, I was a graduate of UNH Thompson School. I studied agriculture there for 3 years. Sarah?
I'm an English major. It's a perfect match for farming.
Yep, my mom was an English major too. My dad was a philosophy major. So, you know, between the 4 of us, we make it work.
Right at home.
So maybe we will move on, and we go from the vegetable season. And we do sell vegetables year-round, 12 months out of the year, through winter farmers markets and off the farm here, and through the Warner Public Market and Sweet Beet Market. But come fall time, when the garden crops really go to bed, we transition into the cordwood and the logging and working the forest around the sugar bush and selecting trees for future use and profits. So maybe we'll go check out some of the logging. We found ourselves at the sap house, where I'm going to take a minute and talk about our logging and cordwood operation. And then maybe Sarah will speak a little bit about the maple syrup operation. Right now it's close to mid-August, and I just sold my first 2 cords of wood of the season, and we are already, before having harvested a single winter squash, are already transitioning into cutting and selling wood for firewood and cordwood. The farmhouse is 100% heated on wood. Sarah and I live in a little cabin up the road, which is wood heated, and we sell anywhere between 10 and 18 cords of wood on any given year. We also use the skidder out in our sugar bush, where we do a single tree selection. We sell veneer quality oak, we sell pine logs, and we work on releasing young sugar maple trees for possible future tapping potential. Soon we will be filling our woodshed here for the evaporator. Our syrup operation is 100% wood fired, and we require anywhere between 30 and 40 cords of wood a year to get us through the syrup operation. The logging in the cordwood usually lasts from selling wood beginning in August to really cutting and splitting and going into timber production in late October. And that will go through until we start our syrup production, probably early February.
The maple season is something that's special for me here at Kearsarge Gore Farm because it's how I first came to the farm. I've been here 8 years and I started volunteering. I came out from the West Coast to volunteer for a month of making maple syrup in New Hampshire in the winter. I was shocked that people were farming in the winter, having not experienced like real winter like this before. It was my first time snowshoeing. It was my first time really seeing this like abundance of sugar maples is not something that is in many other places in the world, and particularly where I was from. It was a whole new experience for me. So when I first came here, and it's still how we do it, probably like the first week of February, we're out in the sugar bush, snowshoeing, walking, hopefully snowshoeing if there's snow, walking around, fixing our lines. We use a lot of plastic tubing in between trees, drilling, tapping, adding new taps, 1 to 3 taps per tree. We make about 700 to 800 gallons of syrup a year, which is awesome. So it's all wood fired, it's all wood from our land. We boil it all right here. It all comes out this door, and like I said earlier, we sell 90% of it within 30 miles of here. Maple weekend is a huge weekend for us. It's awesome. We get probably 500 or more people to come up our little dirt road down to our dirt sugar shack and come in to see our evaporator, and all this work that we do is such an awesome time to share this. I always think about it at people doing awesome things in like far-flung corners of our state. Like, you would never end up at this farm if you weren't coming here for a certain thing. And I find that people are always amazed at the amount of work that sugaring takes. And I think that it amazes me every year too. I'm not involved in the logging operation at all. And to see Sam and his dad and all of our crew that's involved in that is like astounding. After you're like loading this evaporator just like hour after hour for like, we boil not continuously, but for from February until like the first week of April, we probably have around 20 to 25 days of boiling off and on interspersed based on that like weather change, those cool nights and warmer days when the sap starts flowing. Yeah, we're just like loading this wood in here, and to think that it came from the land here that's, helping to like make more sugar bush essentially. So just like a cool kind of symbiotic thing that happens, and it happens here. We're not just clear cutting land. We're not doing it, we're not just making maple syrup, like turning an oil burner on. It's kind of this very land-based activity that, I don't know, is very unique to New England.
It's not all work either. Sometimes it's fun. Should we, I think that you got it though, that we talked about the logging and
Wait, where does the vacation come in four-season farming?
The vacation is tough.
Oh, Lord.
Yeah, that's right around Christmas. We visit Sarah's parents for a little while.
Yeah.
But we spoke about the logging a little bit, and Sarah touched on the maple syrup and how we do that in the spring. We spoke earlier about how we transition from one season to the other. Again, we'll be in the sap house making syrup at the same time that we're starting to get into our high tunnels and planting spinach and lettuce and salad mix and things.
Seeding all of our onions too. It's like, okay, if we're not in the sap house, we're going to be starting trays and trays of onions and all those early season crops that we get seeded in February.
Right. Yeah, a lot of our vegetable production does start in February.
Really early.
Yeah, right along the same time that we're starting the maple syrup process. And then maybe the last thing that we should touch on is the raising of livestock and the animals, and that is a year-round project and a daily project. And this is a great time of year because the sheep and the cows are all out on pasture, so we can go take a look at that. So on Kearsarge Gore Farm, we raise Devon cattle, which are a heritage breed of cows. When the United States was first settled, they bred the American milking Devons. They're a tri-purpose cow. They're capable and smart and strong enough to work. We use them and raise them as beef cows. But they are a milking Devon, and so they are capable of being milked as well. We call it the fantasy farm. We do a lot of different things on the fantasy farm, but someday we would hope to use the cows for all three of those creative and excellent uses. Bob first bought cows maybe when I was 8 or 10. We started with just a few acres of pasture and just a few cows, and now we do anywhere between 15 and 18 acres of hay. We rotationally graze on 10 to 20 acres, and it's definitely a year-long project, but we enjoy having the animals on the farm, and we think that if you're doing year-round agriculture in New Hampshire, it's a traditional piece to the agriculture, and to us it's an important piece and a valued piece as well.
Another kind of like side benefit to having animals is that they keep some of the other animals that you don't want away. One of our people are surprised when we tell them this, but porcupine is actually one of our biggest predators. Not deer, not rabbits, not anything else. But porcupine, and they'll kind of like slink their way in and eat like a little bit of something and then keep going through when you're through the aisle when you're not watching. So we put a porcupine fence, and we put a fence for the sheep, and the subsequent result is that we get to keep the porcupines out. So instead of just like putting up deer fence, we're putting up a fence that is giving us pasture for the sheep and protection from one of our biggest pests.
Yeah, also grazing the sheep along the edges of our garden. So it really works out well in two ways, which is the electric fence protects the gardens from predators like deer and porcupine. And also the sheep will manage the edges of our gardens for us and keep the weeds and grass down. We do have to run some like a lawnmower occasionally along the edge of our gardens, but it does help us keep our area maintained with less machinery and less mechanical intervention. So there are good, useful ways to incorporate your animals in with some beneficial garden practices as well. Not just with the compost and the manure, but also just where you put them and where you graze them, and how you go about setting your fences and your rotation up.
The other part of it is the lambing season. In terms of like four season farming, in February, Sam's mom is out in the barn with the sheep and the lambs. They're all lambing then. So the coldest nights, and then right after that, so we have a barn full of lambs. The trees are getting tapped. We're seeding are some of our earliest crops, and I think maybe like right there is like the crux of our whole operation. Like you kind of see that, you know, the
We're
house is
still doing winter farmers markets, or the end of the winter farmers
Yeah.
market season, beginning of
the house is getting heated with wood.
yeah. So it really does all come together at some points in the year, definitely.
Yeah.
But it's a year-round operation, and we farm all 4 seasons, and we find benefit not only in like the diversity of our agriculture and the diversity of our markets, but I appreciate the diversity of work. It's never the same routine every day. We're not always just doing market vegetables or just raising cows or just cutting wood or just making syrup. We get the benefit in a diverse lifestyle, and that helps, keeps me sane anyway.
By the end of the season, you're always wanting to do the next thing that's coming along.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. End of vegetable season, we're excited to pick up the chainsaw and split wood. By the end of wood season, we're excited to make maple syrup, and by the end of maple syrup, we're excited to see the lambs come in and start the vegetables. So, it's a lot to keep it all managed, but it's important to us, and we enjoy doing it. So thank you, everybody, and we look forward to talking and hearing questions. Thank you guys very much.